Equity and inclusion initiatives were once all the rage in the corporate world, but several big companies are now walking back on those promises.
What's up, y'all? Fun fact, when you go live, you never know what's going to happen. That was a clip from a past live. If you missed it, I did a live not too long ago around the attack on DEI. There's been so many things happening this past year, and that was like a little tie-in from that. So we'll just pretend that was a reminder. Go check out the last live. But what's up, everyone? What's up? I'm glad to do these lives. It's been a minute, but I got a call recently. Someone kind of bringing me back out of what I didn't even realize was an accidental retirement. So we live. I'm excited to be talking with all of you, live on YouTube, live on LinkedIn. This conversation right here is, I'm really excited about it. I mean, obviously I get excited about all the content that I do and the live streams as well. Mostly because for me, this is all about kind of sharing information, sharing stories. And on this one in particular, I get to share a little bit about kind of the world I'm in, the playground I'm in, which is the world of content and actually working in this field, right? Because I think being a creator can mean so many different things to a lot of people. When you first hear about it, you think, oh, someone is like going viral on TikTok every other day. Someone has been making tons of money on YouTube, all this stuff, and all that thing is accurate, but to be a creator is really just being able to create. And like for me, for example, most of my time is actually spent helping others with their creative pursuits, projects, shows, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, got to speak to a class at Georgia State recently, just on this whole wonderful world of content and career, and also talking about the business models behind all of it. So it's just like it's such an interesting world right now. There's so many changes happening, and on this particular live stream, we're going to talk about what it looks like to be a creative and have a career in this field right now, today, 2024, 2025, 2026. I'm excited for y'all. And everyone, if you're watching live, would love to hear it. But if you're catching the replay, please interact as well. Any comments, questions, et cetera, I will go back through, reply, answer any questions. And if you got extra questions for our guest but missed her, don't worry, I will go bug her. I'll sacrifice my relationship with her to make sure I get your questions answered. But anyways, y'all. This guest is somebody that I actually met through LinkedIn, which is the reason I keep coming back to this platform. If you're watching on YouTube, I love you all over there too for a whole other reason, right? But our guest today, met her via LinkedIn audio event, just an impromptu one. I don't even know how she found it, but she did. And we were talking. She was talking about her career, and I was like, man, you've been working with the big dogs. I'm talking. She worked at Kevin Hart's LOL network. She's done some stuff with Netflix. I believe I might be making stuff up. I don't think so, but I believe she said she did a little something with Will Smith's company too. I don't know, but she's been working with a lot of big names in various roles. She's been an assistant. She's been a writer. She's created her own platform. She's led community. She's done a lot of stuff. And later on in the month, we're going to have her back on to for something else exciting that she's working on. But for today, we were talking, and she mentioned this newsletter that she has all around building sustainable creative careers. So we're going to get into that. My guest today is Jerrica Long. Jerrica, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hello. So happy to be here. I'm good. How are you?
Doing great, doing well. Yeah, and also because this is live, shout out to everyone if you or someone who's kind of experiencing this whole crazy hurricane and natural disaster that's been happening all over the place. It is wild. I know there's a lot of support that's going out there, but still, a lot of people's lives are changing. So shout out to everyone going through it right now. Life is crazy. But yes, I'm excited to have this conversation with you, Jerrica. First off, I think the biggest question I have for you, honestly, is this first one. And it's all about kind of getting into this career. Like, how do you go from working in whatever industry you're in to being in this field? Because there is no right or wrong way to get into it. I think it's like a whole roller coaster of a ride. So I'm curious for you, like, how did you even get started in this whole entertainment, media, creative industry?
Wow, such a great question. I started in where I was. I think you start where you are. And I was in
Mm.
Florida, in Orlando at UCF, going to college. And I started working as a production coordinator at Universal Studios. And I loved it so much. I got to work a lot. Like, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. So I got to work on like Harry Potter and like that whole world and stuff like that. So that was exciting. But you start where you are. And I started working there. And then from there, I would just like, I don't know, I wanted more. I wanted so much more. I found an internship, the T. Howard Foundation. They paid you, I needed a paid internship to take me to New York. And I started, interning and stuff like that. And then from there, I just started, you start hopping and meeting people and applying to jobs and making those connections. And then, yeah, I think that's how you start. You start where you are.
That's facts. Shout out to, you said UCF?
Yes, UCF.
Shout out to them. Shout out to them. I know a few people who went there.
Mhm.
Also, some of y'all may not know this, but yeah, I was a very big Harry Potter fan. So it's kind of cool that you're actually able to work on that. I'd be like, yo,
Yeah.
younger me would have been like, oh, what? How'd you do that? So that's
Mhm.
dope. That's dope.
Oh, what house are you in?
Mm. Oh man. See, oh man, it's been a minute since I've done a quiz thing. I remember I did so many quizzes. I've been in a couple houses, Gryffindor and I want to say Hufflepuff were the two houses I ended
Wow.
up in.
Okay.
Don't ask me how I ended up in two, but I did. I tricked that soda head.
No, I love that. I love that so much. I
Yeah.
love.
What about you?
So when I first took the test, I was a Slytherin, and I was distraught because when you watch
Ooh.
the movies, it's like, oh, Slytherin, like no. But I'm gonna honor that. That was the first house that I was like given. I have taken the test several times. I've gotten Hufflepuff. I've gotten Gryffindor. But I'm gonna honor Slytherin is my
Yeah. After the 10th time taking the test, you kind of know how to ask or how to
right. You
answer.
know what to do. You know what you're gonna, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Right. All right. We have to nerd offline. What's up, Steve? Appreciate you pulling up to watch. Yeah. So, okay. So yeah, you started kind of the opportunity being in
Mhm.
Florida, and then just kind of as things pop up, just
Yeah.
popping over. So at that time, were you like actively trying to work in this industry, or was it just more so like an opportunity kind of came up?
No, I was actively trying to work in the industry. I remember I joined like Women in Film for Florida. Like I was trying to find my opportunity where I was because I don't know about you, but when I was in college, I was like, I'm ready to go. Like I feel like I did my 2 years. I was ready to, it's a 4-year degree. I'm ready to go. And so I kept trying to find like entertainment opportunities in Orlando. And that's the best that I could find was Universal.
Yeah. So it wasn't even just a simple like, oh, first job applying to boom, got it in. You were working on that for a minute.
Yeah, I had to network. It was like a year of like networking and meeting people and referrals and stuff like that, just to even get an interview.
Mm.
Um,
Man,
mhm.
do you remember if there was like one thing in particular in like when you finally get that opportunity that kind of helped you that really stood out to you? And I asked because um, so I created or it actually isn't out yet. I'm rolling it out soon. A series all around like it's called Career Paths for Podcasters, but it's kind of all design or kind of built around the idea of like, oh, you're doing this podcast. What opportunities are there out for you career wise? And
Mhm.
just talking about like transferable skills or certain things that podcasters may not know that's an advantage to them, but kind of could stand out. But yeah, do you remember if there was anything in particular, or was just you kind of finally got something?
I think for me, reaching out to people who have the job or title that you want, it was before LinkedIn, so I would use Women in Film as like my directory, and like I would just
Mm,
ask people for a coffee or would they meet with me and stuff like that. I'd also use like the UCF film department to help make those connections. But it was a lot of in-person conversation that helped me understand the role, understand what I was doing, understand what jobs made the most sense for me. But at that point, I was willing to take anything except be a cast member. I did not want to be a cast member.
not a cast member? No, you don't want to be extra?
Members. No, no. Mm-mm.
Man, okay,
Good
well, so
time.
it worked out. It worked out for you.
Mhm.
So yeah, you've been in this industry for a minute, working in different just capacities in different companies. Can you talk a little bit about that journey, kind of from that first opportunity to kind of being in a position to get a job at like and working with like the LOL network?
Yeah. I will say for me, well, one, it started at working at CAA. I do feel like agencies can be extremely difficult. I have talked about my experience publicly in the New York Times, what I went through working at talent agencies, but I will say it's a revolving door and you meet everybody in town. Like I feel like everybody that I know now is like a network executive or running a different department or whatever. And I think that was a big part of it is just like going to an agency and working and doing that. Like, it's tough doing that.
Hmm.
because you have to have those connections. You want to know people at those companies before you need to walk into those companies. And so for me, getting to LOL Network, it was the person who worked in HR at CAA. And so when I
Oh,
sat
wow.
with her, she was like, "Oh, my God, it's so good to see you." You know what I mean? Like it's like that. And working at a place like that is where you'll find, "Oh yeah, you read the podcast for Josh Spector." But working at a place like that is where you'll make those connections. Like one of the best decisions, hardest but best decisions I've ever made, was working at a talent agency.
That's what's up, man. See, yo, we got someone who been around. Josh Spector. This is a name right here. If y'all don't know, you gotta follow Josh Spector. He be dropping gems.
Yes. If you are a
Man,
creator and you want to have a business, that's the person you need to follow immediately.
man, yo, that really says something right there. So what at what point do you think that you started to identify with the concept of being a creator?
Oof, that was a hard one because when you work at a talent agency, you see how creators are treated, and you're like, "Ooh, I don't ever want to
Oh,
be talent. I don't ever want to be a writer. I don't ever want to be a filmmaker." It is so hard to get those jobs and keep those jobs, like, heavy on the keep.
right.
For me, it was I was a creative in private. I wouldn't even tell people. I still struggle telling people that I'm a creative or a writer or a content creator. Like I still struggle with that. It's something that I'm continuing to like work on. And I'm at a point now where it's like, oh, you need to know. You need to know that I'm all these things because it
Mm.
makes me better at my job. It makes me better as a person in the world. But yeah, that was a struggle. Just naming myself a creator was really hard.
Yeah, I know. First podcast that I did, I didn't tell anybody about it intentionally for several reasons. One,
Mhm.
I still felt like I was in the testing out stage. And then also, I was like, man, I don't want anyone to know about this. This is kind of awkward. And the reason people found out is because I mentioned it to my mom, just briefly mentioned, like, oh, yeah, I'm not telling anybody, don't share with anybody. And she just did what moms do, kind of share with everyone.
Aw.
And that just kind of made me, oh, shoot, okay, I'll accidentally
Mhm.
posted that. Another time I updated my cover photo because I was testing things out. I didn't realize it sent a notification out to everybody. It's like,
Ooh,
oh,
been
okay,
there. Mhm.
I guess it's out there. So no, I feel that. But you said something that was kind of interesting, that kind
Mhm.
of identifying as a creator has kind of helped you just in the world. And obviously you work in this industry, but I think for a couple conversations I've been having with people
Mhm.
and some conversations seeing more so on LinkedIn as well. It's just using content and being a creator, not necessarily just for the fact of like, like I mentioned earlier, like being able to say you're a TikTok or whatever, but just using content for other purposes. Sometimes it's people who are just creating content to, get a raise at their own job or prove a
Mhm.
concept, just the ability to communicate. So with you, how does identifying as a creator help you now?
I also feel like it's therapy because I think it's so hard to say you're that thing, especially when you're going after a dream, especially when you're places like LA and New York, when you see people who are living the dream. Like I work for Kevin Hart. Like I saw him living the dream. And you're like, how can I say I'm that? He's so good. He's so
Mm,
this, he's so that. Like imposter syndrome to the ninth degree. So it was just really hard. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to say it out loud to get to where you want to go.
that's
I think
facts.
that's, you're not considered. If you're not raising your hand, if you're not talking about your work, whether it's on LinkedIn or wherever, people don't think about you. They don't even have you top of mind because all they see are the people who are talking about their work and making stuff.
That's true. I feel like that for a lot of people, and by a lot of people, I mean myself included, I've had to overcome this, I think, in the past year itself, even. Just like it kind of feels sometimes like you're just kind of, I don't even know if the word's bragging is right, or just kind of just
Mhm.
like sometimes there's like that mental barrier to get over that's like just feel like you're doing too much or being extra or attention hog or just being one of those people. But then afterwards you realize like, oh no, it's not even about that. It's just kind of
Yes.
letting people know what's going on because people
Mhm.
I still reach out to people and they're like, oh yeah, what you up to? They have no idea. I think that I'm posting too much, but a lot of people just still don't have any idea because it's kind of hard to see stuff.
Yep.
I feel that. I feel that. And also some people are feeling what you're saying too.
Yeah.
Justin Malone, what's up, Justin? How you doing? Share that, definitely therapy gives me a sense of joy, taking something from my mind and making a reality. And I've been seeing your posts, Justin, too. They're fire.
Mm.
Um, yes, we got Stephanie up from Harlem.
Yeah.
Appreciate you joining in. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. That imposter syndrome true. Like I felt it, but I'm also not over here comparing myself to Kevin Hart because he's like, 5,000 miles away from me. He's
Right.
right next door to you. So that I could definitely see how that can happen. What was there, do you think you still feel imposter syndrome, or is it just not as is not as aggressive as it used to be? Like what's your relationship with that now?
It fluctuates for sure. I definitely think therapy helps, like talking about it with my therapist who I've had for so long has helped. But I think for me too, just like I work in social media. I see it at its worst. I see it at its best. And it's like when you work in social media specifically, I feel like there's a lot of, oh my God, my content isn't good enough. What's wrong with my lighting? Because you're giving feedback to creators and you're like, well, I know that I would note this on a video if I saw it. Like my lighting looks crazy right now. You know what I mean? Like you're constantly thinking about all of that stuff. And it's like, I don't know, it just adds to the imposter syndrome. And now I'm at a point where it's like, I'm just gonna get it done. Like at the end of the day, it just has to happen. Like, period. And it can't be perfect. And I think imposter syndrome and perfectionism are on that same line. And I think perfectionism will stop you from getting to the next thing. And it will also feed your imposter syndrome.
It'll definitely stop you from having an actual sustainable career as
Yeah.
well, which is such an interesting concept because like sustainable
Mhm.
career and content, especially in an industry that's very demanding, where it's kind of feels like it's pushing you to be constantly go, go, go nonstop. When we were talking, you were just mentioning that something that you're kind of helping a lot of people do, kind of building that something that can actually last for a while
Yeah.
without kind of just feeling like you got to escape. So I'm really curious, like what does it mean to have a sustainable creative career
Yeah.
right now?
I think it's having multiple streams of income that feel good. I think a lot of creators that you may or may not know of are suffering from burnout because they haven't diversified their income streams. They haven't figured out like what is my why? Who am I talking to? Like what are the things that I'm doing that make me feel good, that I feel good about, that I'm putting into the world? And I think a lot of that, you know, self-reflection through your creative work with your creative work is super helpful. But I think to have a sustainable career is to figure out how do you want to live, right? Like how do you want to live? Where do you want to live? How much money do you need to make? And what are the income streams that you feel good about?
Hmm. Man, that's real. Especially the where do you want to live too? Because I've seen some of them jobs in California paying like 50,000 more than over here in Atlanta, but then also
A
it
living.
costs 50,000 more to live over there too. So no,
Mhm.
that's definitely key. Um, and also, yo, everyone, I feel like I need to figure out a way to have like a certain like a trigger. Someone mentions a word, like there's a whole like because that burnout. Oh man, I've been
Whew.
telling someone the other day that I feel like now it's like I'm at a point where I could sense a burnout coming and I know what to do. Me and burnout are close to being best friends. We still kind
Mhm.
of like, I don't know, we're kind of weird with each other, but I'm learning. I'm learning and growing. But yeah, that burnout is something interesting because I've definitely
Mhm.
seen people just kind of, just leaving a career altogether just because it's not very healthy.
Yep.
But also sometimes I feel like it's not even just about what you do, it's like the expectations that others have of you.
Mhm.
So for you, someone who's kind of worked in different environments, have you? I guess what do you do when you're looking to make sure you're having a healthy career, but your manager, your employer is kind of having that kind of creating these unhealthy practices or forcing you to kind of follow these unhealthy practices?
Yeah, I'm different. I'm one of those people where I will leave a job. I will because I worked on Blackish almost killed me. I worked on so many different
Mm,
shows where it's almost literally killed me. Like been in hospitals for exhaustion. I was so tired at the wheel, I drove into a wall before even leaving the parking lot. Like I've been through, and I'm at a point now where it's like I have to live my life, and part of what I need from a job is a work-life balance, and I'm not swaying on that. And that's one thing that like even with my job now, like I talk to my manager about my work-life balance all the time. That's number one. That's part of why I chose the role that I have now, is finding that work-life balance. And I think when you don't have that work-life balance for a consistent period of time, you got to shift. You got to find because you matter more than any job.
hmm
So
That's facts. That's facts. If you're gone, the job will still be there. Someone else will fill it.
they will fill it tomorrow. They actually have the JD already written. They just have to copy and paste it.
Whoa, that's how they got you before. They do the same thing. Man,
Mhm.
now that's real. That's real. Okay, so this is a kind of a shorter live because we're actually gonna have Jerrica on a little later either this month
Mhm.
or in November. Special announcement coming soon. But curious for right now, because I love to leave people with kind of some like real like practical, like this is what
Mhm.
we could do now type of advice. Um, Having a sustainable creative career, you mentioned it involves multiple income streams. It
Mhm.
kind of involves knowing your bandwidth, but can we get into a little bit of like how to actually do some of those things?
Yeah. I think it depends on what type of creative that you are. Are you an educational creative? Are you somebody who's teaching something on social media and building a following that way? Are you an entertaining creative? Like, are you an entertainer creative?
Mm,
Or teaching creative, there's so many opportunities around like memberships and like courses and all the different things that you can really own and sustain yourself. But I think when it comes to entertaining creatives, like your sponsorships, your brand deals, your merch, like you're selling in essence yourself, your lifestyle, and you're entertaining people. So how can you entertain people in real life and build that one-to-one connection outside of the camera? Do you need to go on tour? Do you need to, you know what I mean? Like figuring out how to build those income streams while still connecting with your audience, especially if you're an entertainer creative. Um,
mhm. Yo, I actually love that, especially the what you mentioned about like the in-person experiences.
mhm,
So I think that there's like a like I've met so I mean we all know people who've started business or something that just aren't even on social media. I'm like, how do you even operate? So I do. I'm like, okay, cool. But
mhm,
then also that Jason, I forgot his last name, but I haven't met you. So when I meet you, well, I'll know your last name. But the
mhm,
editor in chief of Entrepreneur Magazine and shared a
mhm,
video of somebody was promoting a local pizza restaurant. And what
mhm,
he did, he printed out a QR code, right? That's nothing new. We all are familiar with QR codes. But what he did, he put it on basically this kind of hat thing. He wore this costume, put the QR code on the hat, and on the side it said scan for free pizza. He walked around downtown, but instead of just standing there, he would like hold up signs to block it. So he kind of turned it into this whole interactive game where people kind of had to chase him a little bit with the
mhm,
phone to get
mhm.
that free pizza, and like the videos been going all over and stuff like that. So when you were talking about those in-person
Yeah.
experiences, like that stuff is like really interesting to me because that's like
Mhm,
it's kind of forces you to really bring out that creativity because
mhm.
posting on social, a lot of people are doing it, but that's something that really stands out and breaks the mold. So I really love that piece there.
Thank you. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
in person is the future. I think when I think of the creator economy, who is the future, the next big whoever, they figured out how to have in-person one-to-one connection with their audience and figuring out what that looks like, whether it's going live or whether it's having like, events in person, whatever the case may be. But people want to meet people in real life more now more than ever, especially
That's
after the
interesting.
pandemic.
That's so interesting because we've gone global basically because of the internet, and now it's
Mhm.
like, oh, in person, it almost brings it back to local. So back to like, people you could touch and feel for like, within your vicinity. That's such an interesting just transition or change and
Mhm.
all that.
Yeah, I think
Mm,
we go back to what we know. And I think
mm,
people are lonely and they're finding they're even lonelier on the internet. That's why live is taking off or it took off.
mm,
I think people want one-to-one connection. They want to be around people and feel energy and feel vibes and have like real conversation.
mm. That's real because I know when Clubhouse was popping off, it's because of that kind of lonely feeling. The internet kind of
Mhm.
helped to create that. But as soon as we're kind of back in person and everything, those I was on Clubhouse like recently this year, but it
Ooh,
just wasn't enough to keep me there, especially when
yeah.
I could go pull up to an actual Clubhouse somewhere
Mhm.
down the street. Um, Now I feel that. Okay, so I know you have a newsletter coming
Yes.
out that's all around kind of similar
Mhm.
topic, building a career, especially in comedy.
Yep.
Um and just giving people tips. And what's cool about it when I was looking at the newsletter, it's like, okay, yeah, this is about comedy, but the lessons could be applicable. It's almost E for everybody. So
Yes.
what are like some of the things that you're going to be sharing with people via that newsletter?
No, I love this question. One of the things I've been trying to unpack is the different types of creators and how people build audience, how people build sustainable audience.
Hmm.
And that means building for me, how I define a sustainable audience is finding the right people. You don't need a million followers. You need maybe 10 or 15 or 20,000 of the right followers. Like if you're an actor, you want producers following you. You want people who are also actors following you. Like you want the right people following you to be impactful to your career, depending on whatever your creative pursuit is. But it's about finding the right people and building sustainable income and stuff like that. But also taking Issa Rae lessons from Issa Rae, lessons from Tyler Perry. One of the things that Tyler Perry's audience, say what you want about the movies, we're not going to go into all that,
We don't gotta talk about that.
but his fans and his audience are serious. He can go to any network and he knows his fans and his audience is going to follow him. They're going to watch his movies. They're going to talk about them, and they show up for him because they feel like they're seen and all these other things. And I think unpacking how he built this audience through email strategy is extremely important, especially with the newsletter hitting and stuff like that. So just unpacking these different tactics and tools that heavyweight creatives have used to effectively build audience, to effectively build their careers in digestible and really informational instances is going to be the main goal for the last strategy. And finding community, I don't know what that looks like outside of the email, whether it's like events or whatever, but the idea is that you're able to go to this newsletter and each week you're getting the information that you need to help build a sustainable career for yourself. I will say it will probably lean into comedy in the beginning because that's kind of my bread and butter, but I work in all facets of social media, so I'm able to kind of, put it in digestible formats for people to understand and use in their business to build audience in a sustainable way.
Honestly, and let me shout out Justin one more time. He said he feels like omni-channel experiences that start digitally then naturally go to in-person are the wave. It's the continuity that builds trust and translates.
Exactly.
Right on, man. Right on.
Mhm.
So, what's Justin? That was actually such a good thing. I had something in mind, but I forgot it because that was so good. That was really good. But oh yes, I do remember actually. I think there are two types of creators that I take lessons to and watch because I think like watching them will just teach you so much about both digital and also in-person stuff. It's comedians and then also video game
Mhm.
streamers.
Mhm.
Comedians, I think, are like the ultimate form, especially if you're doing stand-up. But even if you're not, just the ability to like in stand-up having all these people right there in front of you and
Yes.
like the energy, like kind of transforming that energy from
Mhm.
stillness to laughter.
Mhm.
Sometimes, just laughter to the points of tears, not be able to cry. Even if people are heckling you, that's still like you're kind of
Engaged.
creating something that's causing some type of effect.
Mhm.
That's such a unique thing. And then just to do that once is brave. Like I don't know if I'm ready to do a whole stand up,
No,
especially
I think everybody should do stand-up at least once. It's such
you
a
really have
thrill.
you
Yeah,
have
I
done
used to do stand-up when I lived in LA. I used to do stand-up. Now I'm more like a hobbyist. Like I like to just get out and talk and stuff like that. I feel like it's a cheaper version of therapy, but I love stand-up. I love getting on stage and talking my ish and telling my jokes or whatever, telling my stories. It's a good time. Highly recommend everybody at
man.
least try it once.
Can you do stand up and have imposter syndrome?
No, that's the problem. And that's why I'm sad. You know what I mean? Why I'm sitting down.
I feel that. I feel that. Nah, man, y'all the comedians out here, like, honestly, it's like it's just so impressive. And then just watching what people do on social after doing
Mhm.
their in-person stuff, just bravo. And then video gamers, like all this
Yeah.
live streaming stuff, they've been doing that years before just regular people started
Mhm.
streaming and stuff. So those two. So the fact that you're building a newsletter off of that and starting with comedy, I think is still kind of E for everybody. Like there's just so much we could learn from it.
Mhm.
Um, Spectacular. So, I know we're coming close on time because I only got drinking for a little bit. She's got things to do, people to help, projects to work on.
Mhm.
Any other kind of piece of advice like to share with people around
Mhm.
building a sustainable career?
Oh, a couple of things I want to say. One, if you're a person of color going after any type of creative career or just a person just in general, invest in therapy, invest in not only therapy, but finding the person that sees you, understands you, and listens to you is extremely important. I would not be here if it wasn't for a good therapist, literally. Two, I think finding community and support is extremely important as you venture off into your creative pursuits. That's going to keep you going. Knowing your why is extremely important, and that you can do it. My biggest tip for you is to find those resources that are out there to support you in your dream. Like
Mhm.
there's Black Film Space. There's so many different avenues and opportunities to find community. And I think that's extremely important as you venture on building a sustainable career, but also be very close to your why and making sure that you're sowing those seeds both internally and externally that makes you want to continue to create because it is a journey. It is not a sprint, it is a marathon. So support is extremely important regardless. And then just making sure you're making content that you actually enjoy.
Man, that's fire. Okay, I lied. I got one more question for you. I got
Oh, go
one
ahead.
more.
It's totally fine. I have
It's
time.
your fault. I'm blaming it on you actually because you're just so good at this. Um, So there's a lot of people right now who are interested in content, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned like, part of the process is just continue to keep
Oh,
going and
thanks,
going.
Eugene.
But for people who are at the very, very beginning, where they're still trying to figure out exactly what they want their creativity to be, any
Mhm.
advice on kind of exploring and kind of finding that thing that works for them?
Yeah. Take judgment out of it. Take
Mm.
looking at the views, looking at your engagement. You should just be doing something for the fun of it. Post, have fun, enjoy it. Try that for at least 30 to 60 days before you look at any data, because you're going to learn a lot about what you like and what you don't like very quickly. And don't worry about people finding your videos. They're going to find you. You just have to keep making it. If you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to keep making it. Um, yeah, but don't worry about the data. From a
30,
strategist,
60
social
days.
strategist, don't worry about the
30,
data.
60 days. Don't look at them numbers. Don't look. You can go in the comments if you want to, but do not look how many
Have
likes. Do
fun.
not look what people are. I wish I could follow that advice, but I just see that number pop up. I'm like, oh, what's that? But but no, I like that. I like that. That's really real because it really takes the whole like how is it performing out of it and more so
Yep.
focuses on how you feel doing this. That's actually really, really, really good advice. There's so many different ways to create and just exist in this field. Even just if you look at just video alone, there's so many different aspects to
Mhm.
it. Like it's the on cameras, the writers,
Yeah.
it's the set design. There's so much stuff to it. So much
There's
stuff
so
to
much
it.
to it, and I also say that made me think too. I remember I had a friend who was a struggling photographer, and I was like, "Why don't you just work on movie sets and take pictures?" Because it's so hard to find the person that can take the still photography photos for press and stuff like that from big, like shoots or whatever. Like, there's so much opportunity, and there's so many jobs that you probably don't know of where you could be doing your passion and getting paid well, with a union or anything like that. So I did want to flag that because I mean, what you just said
Oh,
made me think of that.
yes. You know what? That's what gave me an idea. First off, shout out to Eugene,
Oh, thank you.
Braxton. Proud of you, Jerrica. Keep the good work. Appreciate Eugene for sharing. It's always good, when you have people kind of share love with you too, kind of give you the
Yeah.
vouch real time. But
And
also,
he knew me at UCF days, like college, back in the day.
oh, in the
Years
journey.
ago. The journey, yes.
Okay, Eugene sees it all. That's what's up. That's really cool to be able to like actually know the people and keep up with people too. It kind of
Mhm.
speaks back to what you were talking about with relationships
Yeah.
too, right? Yeah. But yeah, the other idea it just made me realize is that, yeah, people really don't know what career options are out there. And that's not even just in content or creativity. That's just in everything.
Yep.
I think that show Dirty Jobs back in the day was such
Love
a
that show.
cool show because there's all these different shows that we had no idea existed. But yeah, people out here doing it. There's anyways. So I feel like you and I every now and then should just like, highlight a specific job that people may not know exists or
Yeah,
something like that. And yeah, just put people on, let people know.
I
So
love
many
that.
things out there. You don't always have to be the director or actor. There's
Mhm.
like you said, the person who does photography on movie sets. I
Yeah,
didn't even think of that. So
TV
yeah.
shows too. They get paid very well. Very well.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Let me find my camera. All right, y'all. Jarek, I appreciate you, everyone. We're going to end this live stream early because otherwise, I'm going to end up asking stuff that I got to save for a little later when we have you back for part two. I appreciate your time. Where can everyone follow you and check out that or sign up for the wait list for the newsletter?
Yeah, follow me on LinkedIn, Jerrica Long. My newsletter is linked in my bio. Feel free to subscribe. We will be launching this month, and I'm excited. There's a lot of great content coming down the pipeline, a lot of great interviews and things like that. So, yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn.
I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for just all that you do. I'm excited to see it. I signed up already. Excited to pick up some tips from these comedians out here changing the world and creating new opportunities and stuff. For everyone watching, if you still have a question, if you're watching live or replay, ask anyways. Jerica might see it before I do, but if she doesn't, I'll follow, be like, hey, we got a question.
Mhm.
We need some answers. So
Love
yeah,
it.
appreciate you. Make sure you're tuned in. And I'm also excited that this year's been my year of show and tell.
Mm,
And so just showing all the conversations I've been having I've kept in the archives for far too long. So
wow.
more things coming up soon. Also,
Mm,
forgot to mention it earlier, Afros and Audio. If you're not already familiar, check out afrosandaudio.com. First Black Podcast Festival created for the Black Podcaster in mind. This is their 6th years in Baltimore, Maryland, end of October. I'll share more about that later on in the week and coming weeks and the month. And It's a great time to be a creator. Appreciate y'all. Good luck with your own creative pursuits. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I love talking about content. Jerrica does as well. That's why she created a newsletter about it.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you all, and we will catch you all next time. Peace.
Thank you.